Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting of the New York City Campaign Finance Board to order. You have before you the draft minutes of the March 9th meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved. Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved.
I abstained. I wasn't present.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
One abstention. Didn't see it. Thank you. Do we need to say anything about the agendas?
No, here, let's see.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda are my opening remarks, which will be brief. Good morning and welcome to today's public meeting of the New York City Campaign Finance Board. We have a number of matters to cover, but before getting started, I have a few announcements. First, I would like to welcome our newest board member, Gregory Camp, who has a tremendous record of public service. Mr. Camp has previously served his community as Assistant District Attorney for New York County and as Deputy Director of Criminal Justice for the state of New York, among other distinguished positions. Second, Voter Day will be held at the beginning of next month on May 2nd. This is a key initiative of the CFB's New York City Votes campaign. Staff will be escorting volunteers to Albany for meetings with state legislators to advocate for voting reforms, such as 2 weeks of early voting and same-day voter registration. Space on the buses is filling up fast, so if you're interested in joining the push for election reform, please visit the website votebetterny.org. Finally, we are currently in the process of looking for a new design for New York City's iconic I Voted stickers distributed at polling places on Election Day. The public has just one more day to submit original artwork, after which the finalists will be selected. Then we will open it to a public vote to select a new design. Anyone interested in participating should visit the CFB website at www.nyccfb.info. At this time, I'd like our Executive Director, Amy Lopres, to give a report of the Executive Director.
Thank you. I want to echo the chair's welcome to our newest board member, Greg Camp. I am very much looking forward to working with Mr. Camp for the next 5 years. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank Mark Piazza, who is the former board member in that position. Mark had many dedicated years of service to this board, and in fact, other than the first chair of the board, Father Josue O'Hare, for whom this boardroom is dedicated, Mr. Piazza was the longest serving board member. He served almost 11 years from May 16th, 2006 until this March. We will miss him and thank him for his service, but at the same time are looking forward to working with Mr. Camp.
Anything else?
No.
There were two candidates listed on the agenda for today, one not appearing and one who was originally scheduled to appear. The latter was Mr. Testaverde, who is ill and has requested that the proposed penalties for him be adjourned until the June board meeting, which we have agreed to do. And so the next item for consideration will be the proposed penalties for candidate Jack Hittery. And for that purpose, the board will need to go into...
First, we're going to announce, sorry, this is a new procedure. We're going to announce what penalties the board will be thinking of, but then also we're going to, I think, hear from Councilmember Cantillas before we go into the deliberations.
Okay, very good. So
Bethany wanted,
right.
Ms. Persky, you wanted to check. Sorry, this is a new, we're working this out.
Good morning, Chair Schaefer, Executive Director Loprest, members of the board. My name is Bethany Persky, attorney for the CFB. Before the board is the matter of the Jack Hittery campaign in the 2013 election for mayor. Mr. Hittery was a participant in the program but did not receive public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board determine that the campaign committed the following violations and assess penalties according to the penalty guidelines: failing to report transactions, failing to demonstrate compliance with reporting requirements for receipts, filing a late disclosure statement, failing to file daily pre-election disclosure statements, accepting over-the-limit contributions, accepting contributions from corporations, limited liability companies, or partnerships, failing to document transactions, maintaining a petty cash fund greater than $500, and converting campaign funds to a personal use. The campaign does not contest the recommended violations or penalties.
right? And for the record, the total amount of recommended penalties is $15,933.
Correct.
Thank you very much. All right, before we go into deliberations on that matter, I understand City Council Member Kalos is here, and we welcome you and look forward to hearing your remarks.
Chag Sameach, happy Passover. Good morning and welcome to Chair Frederick Schaefer and new board member Greg Camp. Thank you to Amy Loprest, Executive Director, as well as board members Richard Davis and Naomi Zutterer for your years of service, and to Art Chang for bringing the same innovation that you bring to your startups to the Campaign Finance Board and NYC Votes. For those watching over the internet, please visit nycvotes.org. New York City has one of the model public campaign finance systems in the country, one that has survived court challenges, helped me to get elected, and one that I'm invested in protecting as chair of the Committee on Governmental Operations. As a council member, I generally receive testimony, often from the Campaign Finance Board, but it is worth breaking from protocol because today I'm here to ask for your help improving a system that works, but could work better. For those of you who are new to all this, New York City's campaign finance system matches the first $175 of contributions from residents at a rate of 6-to-1 and gives participating candidates a partial public matching grant of up to 55% of the spending limit in competitive races. This leaves more than 1/3 of the funds outstanding between the public matching grant and the spending limit, which must be reached to be competitive. This big dollar gap for City Council is $65,217, and for mayor, it grows to a staggering $2.5 million. In 2013, mayoral candidates raised $48 million. 5% of contributions were the maximum allowed under the law at $4,950 and accounted for nearly half of the money raised for mayor at $23 million. I'm seeking your support on a modest proposal of matching every small dollar. We can fill the big dollar gap with a combination of small and public dollars to get big money out of New York City politics. If it works, anyone could run for office entirely on small dollars. If it doesn't, big money would prevail and there would be no added costs. There's literally no downside. As an elected official, I'm testifying before you that this would change how elected officials spend time and how city government does business. We currently pay our elected officials who must devote time to fundraising, which involves spending countless hours dialing for dollars from millionaires and billionaires, courting them over meals, at best convincing them that their ideals align, or at worst, making deals, soliciting their big money, and creating an appearance of impropriety that leads residents to wonder about corruption in government. Under this proposal, elected officials hoping to run on small dollars would have to spend the majority of their time in their communities, meeting with neighbors at house parties, listening to concerns, and seeking their support. The Committee on Governmental Operations will be hearing this proposal, Introduction 1130A, on Thursday, April 27th at 1 p.m. at 250 Broadway in the 14th floor committee room. I invite anyone who's watching to join us, give testimony, and in the interim, share your voice with #GetMoneyOut. On behalf of the millions of New Yorkers who can't afford to write a check for $4,950 but want an equal voice, I hope I can count on your support for amplifying the voices of every New Yorker over big money special interests by matching every small dollar.
Thank you very much. I believe you met with staff earlier this week, and they indicated that we will want to analyze this proposal in greater detail before taking a position on it. As you know, we also have a normal schedule for proposing legislation after each election cycle, but we will give this the careful consideration that it deserves.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to take any specific questions anyone might have on the record. I'm not sure how often you get an elected official here to answer specific questions about the corrupting influence of money in politics, and happy to do so. Also, appreciate your consideration.
Why do you think that it is important to do now, given that it won't be in effect until the 2021 election?
We have more than 40 council members coming up on term limits for 2021, which may give rise to the biggest election that we've ever seen as a city, given what's happened with the 8-year term limits. And I think that given the sheer number of people who will be running for higher office and the enormous power that elected officials wield in terms of budget and land use, the city can't afford not to incentivize the 40 or so people, plus everyone else, assembly members, senators who may be and have already filed committees, to participate, because it does work at the city council level. And I think that it could work better for higher office. It isn't quite working for the mayoral election. Only one candidate in 2013 reached a full the full 55% match. And in addition, I was one of a few elected officials who had the privilege of running against an incumbent assembly member. And given what we're seeing this year and what we will likely see in the future, in talking to Professor Malbin, in Los Angeles, half their city council are former assembly members and senators. And in California, they have a rare distinction of their term limits are life term limits. You only get to serve one full term, and then you have to move on with your life. In the city of New York and the state, we're starting to see a game of musical chairs beginning. And it is incredibly hard to raise, to fill that $65,000 donut when you are running as an insurgent candidate against an incumbent assembly member. And those races tend to have fewer candidates running. And the only way we get competitive elections where new people can get in at the city council level, as well as all the way up to mayor in 2021, is if we incentivize and actually match every small dollar instead of just half of them.
Councilmember, how are you?
Good.
By the way, thanks for all your work on open data and government transparency. And along those lines, I have a series of questions. Do you know what the average contribution amount has been to city council races?
I was looking at the 2013 post-election report last night. I can say that I'm sure Amy may have the numbers off the top of her head, and I will yield to her, but I will say I was looking at these numbers for my race. And the most frequent contribution to my race running against an incumbent assembly member was $10. 244 people out of over 1,200 who gave to me gave exactly $10. The median contribution was $50. And once there was, as folks know, a scandal in the race, that's when there was access to additional funds. And I think my average was about $150. Amy, do you have the?
I don't have the off the top of my head the average for every. I would have to look it up.
I imagine it's somewhere between 100 and 200.
Mm-hmm. And would you have, we'll focus on, since you have the numbers for your own race.
Yes.
Would you have maxed out at 55 with those small dollar contributions, or would you have maxed out at 85% as your proposal reflects?
So you need, in order under the current system, you need to raise about $15,000 in checks of 175. Then you have the $65,000 big dollar gap. So you can either get $65,000 and the maximum contribution of $2,750 from about 30 people, or you can get half that from 60 people, or half that from 120. In my case, I had to go to 1,200 people. About 1,100 people. So it was incredibly difficult. We almost didn't even make make it in. We were actually paid a little bit later. So under this change, where we go from 55% to 100%, not only would I have been in a better place, but I ran against two people who made their match but didn't reach their spending limit. They weren't competitive. That wasn't a competitive election. The New York Times just thought it was me versus the incumbent assembly member. And when you've got that donut and people hit that match, but they're still not competitive, I think there's something wrong. And I think that when you want to have a bipartisan system, and in the city council, we have 3 Republicans, 48 Democrats, and my district has a strong number of Republicans, but the Republicans couldn't be competitive because they couldn't raise the money to be competitive. And so the primary was the only election instead of having a general election too.
There do not appear to be any further questions. Again, thank you very much for visiting with us and sharing your views.
Thank you for your time.
At this time, the board will go into deliberations on the penalty matter. contributions, $10,250. Number 6, accepting contributions from corporations, limited liability companies, or partnerships, $500. Number 7, failing to document transactions, $800. 8, maintaining a petty cash fund greater than $500, in effect 0. 9, converting campaign funds to personal use, $100, for a total of $14,433. That total amount is $1,500 less than the amount I noted when we were in open session a little while ago because of an error that we corrected as a result of our deliberations. So that is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. We have no matters to discuss in executive session today, so we will not be going into executive session. Our next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt our ethical guidelines, which we re-adopt each time a new member joins our board. Is there a motion to adopt the ethical guidelines?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries. Finally, a call for a motion to approve the rules to be issued for public comment. And before we make the motion, why don't we hear from Hillary?
Good morning. My name is Hillary Wesson. I'm General Counsel for Legal Affairs for the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Today, the board will vote on proposed amendments to the board rules regarding timing of deposits of cash contributions, restrictions on return of contributions, transfers of funds received for other elections, rescission of certification, contributions made and intermediated by individuals doing business with the city, contribution documentation proof of compliance with the Conflict of Interest Board, and public funds payments in special elections. These amendments are being made to conform with local laws number 167, 173, 184, 185, 186, 188, 189, 192, and 193 for the year 2016. Pursuant to Section 1043 of the New York City Charter, the proposed rules will be published in the city record, and after a 30-day public comment period, the board will hold a public hearing for anyone who wishes to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you and your staff did on this. There were a number of amendments to the law that were adopted by the City Council, and so this was not a simple task, and we appreciate your work on this. So is there a motion to adopt these proposed rules?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Amy, will the public hearing does that coincide with a meeting of the board, or is it separate?
It will be separate because the 30-day period does not, sometimes it does allow us to have it coincide, but this period does not. So the public hearing will be on, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the date. So that's what I was doing as you were
You
talking.
can just give us notice.
Do you remember the date? May 25th at 10 a.m. in this room.
Great. Okay. Is there any other item of business for today's meeting? I'd just like to address at the very end the comments of City Council Member Kalos to say that we again appreciate the issue that he raised. It is a real and serious issue that needs consideration, but we need to spend some more time thinking about possible solutions, and to do it, as I mentioned, within the framework of our normal process for considering amendments to the statute. But we certainly understand and appreciate the issues that he raised. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All
Second.
those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.